How can boosting my emotional intelligence actually make me a better leader and help my team perform better?
You're going to be able to create predictive models for your behavior and their behavior. And from that, you're going to be able to plan for the best outcomes from conversation to conversation. I want to get into it a little bit further and give a bit of a caveat. Emotional intelligence is a concept that is valid, and I think there are some really good tools that are associated with it. But it's like any business concept that has tools. It can be overused. It can be, people can talk about it in this way that it sounds like there's like all this depth, but they actually have a very vague understanding of it. I'd say specifically emotional labor can create situations where people become overtly indulgent with how they express themselves. And it can also be a place where people who aren't necessarily very comfortable with emotion, or maybe who aren't really great at reading other people's emotions, it can make them feel precluded from the conversation and like, oh, you don't have a conversation or part of this because you don't feel you're good at it. It's not this like ultra catch-all tool that I think it can be presented as. And I don't want to say it's not important, because of course it's certainly important, but do know that emotional intelligence is just part of being a great leader, a great employer, a great team member. It is a part, and it's very worthy to know about, but it's not the only thing. So with that, when I think about emotional intelligence, there's different models that have different parts. I'd say the part that I'd really encourage people to focus on around emotional intelligence is self-awareness and self-regulation, as well as empathy. So like really understanding other people, what they're feeling, and then also what motivates other people. So with that, you should really be thinking about understanding yourself, understanding other people, but also the environment that you work in and like the social dynamics of the environment that you work in, because those often bring all sorts of pressures and encouragers into people's world that stimulate all sorts of behaviors. So by understanding yourself and your motivations and how to regulate your emotions, you're going to have a predictive model about how you act in situations. Like, are you someone who gets really excited about an idea, but you hate process? Or are you someone who can get defensive when they're pushed on? Or are you someone who is non-communicative when there's a lot of stress and pressure? So it's about creating predictive models for yourself, but also predictive models for other people. Like if you can understand how they feel and how they act when they feel certain ways and what their motivations are behind those things, you'll have predictive models for them. The reason predictive models matter so much is you want to always be thinking about frequency, duration, and impact when it comes to your behaviors and the other people's behaviors. You want to create situations where the frequency of the healthy behaviors is increased, the duration of those behaviors is increased, and that means the impact is increased. Where behaviors you're trying to avoid, you're trying to create situations where they go the opposite direction. So emotional intelligence and being really comfortable with that, and I'd say well versed in it, is helpful in that way. But going back to the beginning of my answer, being also really good at what you do, understanding the business landscape that you're a part of, understanding the strategy you're supposed to be executing on, understanding the tools and systems that you're utilizing, understanding what the responsibilities of your role is, like all of these things totally matter as well. So it's not just emotional intelligence is like the catch-all. It is a piece of the puzzle, and you got to have all the other pieces as well to be really, really good at leading.